Well, thank you, Dr. Salazar-Zamora, for joining us today for Women to Women interview. And we love that you have invited us into your office, this beautiful office. I hope that we are good with Dr. Salazar-Zamora, or would you like to be called Dr. Z?
So, I think it's just easier, Dr. Z. I mean, my last name is a little overwhelming, so let's go with Dr. Z for sake of time.
Okay, excellent. Dr. Z it is.
I started off as a speech language pathologist, and it wasn't actually even in education. I started with individuals that had had traumatic brain injuries, and what I recognized very quickly was my personality and the rate of speech in which these individuals were making progress. It's a very slow rate of progress. And I was struggling with that and thought, as much as I enjoy the work, I don't know if this is going to fill my heart long term, right? And so I had to rethink that. I loved being a therapist, partly because I was born severely profoundly deaf and had a full ossicular chain implant at the age of 17. My mother was the first advocate that I learned from, right? And her mantra was always, never let any disability be your inability.
Wow.
And I was always taught that I would be able to do anything that anybody else could do. I would just have to work a lot harder. A lot of that drove me to the profession. I think God had a plan, obviously, in everything that I've done, and that was a big part of it. Ended up leaving the clinical setting and went into public education, and immediately it was like the light switch went off, and I knew this is where I belong, this is home. And then I had many positions, from educational diagnostician, classroom teacher, special education teacher. I was a director of federal programs and bilingual ed, and became an assistant superintendent of various programs, and not because I couldn't keep a job. I love to explain that, but because I had a habit of always asking why, like a 2-year-old, like why do we do this? And I would question, why do we do this with our staff? And suddenly I was assistant superintendent of human talent, human resources. Or why don't we do more professional development and curriculum instruction? Well, you can imagine, then I became assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction. And my first superintendency actually was in my hometown of Keensville, Texas, over 25 years ago.
Wow.
I love what I'm doing. I'm very blessed to do a job, to be in a profession where I feel like I'm making a difference in the right place, the right district, in a job that I was truly born to do.
Wow.
That's a long answer.
So you took your mom's advice about
Yes.
making it an ability, and you really did do that.
Yeah.
You were the 2023 Superintendent of the Year, so congratulations
Thank
for that.
you.
Obviously, all of the hard work that you've done has paid off tremendously. Other than the challenges that you mentioned, maybe not so much challenges, but maybe something that motivated you to continue doing what you're doing.
So I've always been one that believes in hard work. I will say, it being, Women's History Month, I think it's important that I mention the fact that there were not women who looked like me 25 years ago. There were very few women in the profession leading school districts, and even fewer women of color. And so I've worked over the years to try to mentor, assist, and do anything I can to help additional people that want to do this work, that have the heart for it, the will. I was also very proud to be a national finalist, one of only 3 in the state of Texas.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But being a part of AASA, I was on their governing board, and now I serve on their executive committee. And so that has opened the doors to that national level, where I've been able to mentor men and women. Because let's face it, public education right now is at a place where we need every cheerleader, every person that wants to put that grit and grace to work to make a difference in the district that we serve.
Yeah, it's not just about finding one party to focus on, but really bringing everyone together.
And it really is that team, right?
Yeah.
And having that leader that can build the team. Now, recruitment's one thing, but retention's another thing. Because if you're talented, you can go anywhere, but really having people that believe in what you're doing. In Tomball ISD, we love to say we're not just a district, but a destination.
Ooh.
Not just a destination, but destination excellence. When I started 9 years ago, we had approximately 9,000 students. I do think we're putting the fast in fast growth, because now we're at 23,000 students and counting. Not only have we been able to do that, but since the inception of the accountability system in Texas, and we know that's quite rigorous, Tomball has not just been an A-rated district, but a straight A-rated district.
Wow.
And not just on the academic side, but on the financial side too. but it's that team, that cohesiveness of people that believe in what we're doing as we serve our majority minority district with over 80 languages spoken here in Tomball, Texas.
Wow. It's a small country.
Kind of.
So you have already mentioned a few of the defining moments in your life, but is there anything that comes to mind that you're proud defining moments that you are always referring back to in your memory?
Both of my parents were alive when I was named superintendent for the first time. I was quite young, breaking a lot of barriers at that time. But I would go back to most recently being named the 2023 Superintendent of the Year for the entire state of Texas, where I know every superintendent is working extremely hard. Yeah. We're much closer than people realize, whether it's the women's group. I'm president-elect in the state for Texas Council of Women's School Executives, and super proud to be president-elect and the 100th president of TASA. And then, of course, to get the call that I was a national finalist. You know, those are just accolades, but they mean something because I know the work that is put into it. And not just by me, it's the team that I talked about. It's everybody.
What are the qualities that would define someone you would consider a leader?
I think a leader is somebody who is truly putting others first, looking at the system as a whole, improving upon the things in which you've inherited, right? And so in Tomball, we talk a lot about what leadership looks like and maybe what it doesn't look like. And I often remind people that you're not a true leader if you look behind you and no one's following you.
Oh,
right. And also, what happens to a system in the absence of a leader? Can the system support itself through all the leadership skills that you've enabled, that people have come with or have developed? We partner with the Holsworth Foundation out of Austin, Texas, and we have the leadership definition, which we've created together with people from so many different areas to improve upon and to have what we call a strong bench strength, so that when a principal leaves, I have 5 people that can jump right in. And it's a matter of which leader fits this role, this part of our community, this campus at this time.
So you've defined it and you've created the pipeline for it.
Well, I've had a lot of help, right? But yes, Team Tomball is a term you'll hear often, #Team Tomball. And that really does mean everybody, you know?
So this is a fun question.
Okay.
What advice would you give your younger self?
Wow. Don't take yourself too seriously. There's a sign up there, and I don't know if you can see it, but it says faith will see us through. But I look up there on good days and bad days, and there's been some of both. Just remember to breathe. And I would say my older self has definitely learned to embrace boldness and not be afraid to take those challenges. I think I would not have purchased an oil and gas company that's valued at almost $400 million. That's a whole nother story in itself. But be bold and work. I don't mean bold without bringing your board and leaders with you. I mean, working together as a cohesive unit and explaining the beauty of what this could be. I call that our legacy piece, because it's now become our P-Tech for allied health, our early college, where students, of course, graduate with an associate's degree and a high school graduation diploma. And I'm proud to say that in Tomball ISD, we've had 100% of our students. Now think about it. When you go into that early college, when you graduate, 100% of our kids in May walk the stage with both. That's a big deal. 60 college credit savings to their families.
Yeah.
We've also turned that into a career and technical education facility where we have aviation. You can learn to fly a plane or do aviation mechanics. We've retrofitted it for 911 call center, a full courtroom for legal services, law enforcement, cybersecurity, drone development. You know, the list could go on.
Yeah.
And this is all in a facility that was in bankruptcy. And I had the team, we collectively had that boldness of saying, let's turn this around. And it has turned out to be amazing. All the while renting facility number 1 to an oil and gas company, Baker Hughes, at a sizable contract. I call myself the enterprise superintendent. So we're generating money in a time where, let's face it, we need the money.
It's the thinking out of the box that made you 2023 Superintendent of the Year. So congrats. I mean, that's something that you have to do. So what message would you have for anyone viewing this from a standpoint of Women's History Month?
So I'm the mother of 2 daughters, Milan and Matisse, and the mother of 2 granddaughters, Aria and Aurelia. So we have no boys in our family. Even our dog is a girl. My husband's super disappointed about all that, but he recognizes he's outnumbered. I heard a saying that's used a lot but I think it says a lot about a female in a leadership position, and that is empowered women empower women.
Yes.
And so I think empowering women starts young, and it's helping them hear their voice, find their voice, use their voice. That doesn't mean just to talk. It means to say something that will make a difference for not just women, but people in general. And it's important to lift people up. And that's something that I have done throughout my career, because some have done that for me, even men and women. My mentors were not women because, again, when I started in the superintendency, there just weren't people who looked like me. Very, very few.
What was your dream job when you were little?
I don't know if it was necessarily my dream job, but my father was, since I was little, had raised me believing I would be a lawyer. It became my dream because it was so important to him. Today is actually the 11th anniversary of his passing. And so you'll see his picture right there by my office. And so I think about that. And I talked about the night. One of your earlier questions was about a monumental moment, like a point of pride in my career. And I would say it was that night that my father finally, like, he embraced me. Not that he didn't support me, he did, but he embraced me and he said, Mija, I understand. I see that look in your eye. I get it. Like, you light up in a way that you never did. It just wasn't where I believe I would have been as successful and as happy. Because to me, success is measured in happiness.